NFL players are capable of producing magical moments that most of us can only dream of. But at the end of the day, they're still human, prone to the same emotions, frustrations, and boiling tempers that fans experience from the stands. With the intensity of competition at an all-time high, it's no surprise that emotions sometimes spill over, leading to fiery clashes, heated confrontations, and full-blown brawls. Here are the top 10 most heated moments from the 2024 NFL season. Shout out to BetUS for being the proud sponsor of this video. 10. Jets stupid punch. Throughout this video, we're going to see a lot of anger and frustration. But to get things started, we have reserved our number 10 spot for a bit of good old-fashioned, hot-headed stupidity. The dumbest move you will see all day is this one by Irvin Charles, a kick returner for the New York Jets. With the punt long over and most players making their way back to the sidelines, Charles decided he wanted a bit more action, aimlessly swinging at a Patriots special teamer. Not only did he barely connect, but he did it right in front of two referees, who were both closing in on the situation, eyes firmly trained on Charles. His actions cost his team 15 yards, and the swipe was actually so pathetic that the refs didn't even bother ejecting him. The other player to fall into the stupid category is Puka Nacua, who saw himself removed from this important Week 9 divisional clash against Seattle for throwing a punch. Was he provoked? Not really. Unless you call blocking a provocation. Clearly just annoyed he didn't make a play, he swung at the Seahawks DB and paid the price. Thankfully, his departure didn't prove too costly for his team, as LA went on to win 26-20 in overtime. Number 9. George Pickens wrestling match. Up next, we have George Pickens, who you just knew had to feature on this list. The wideout from Pittsburgh is one of the most enjoyable but volatile people to watch in the entire NFL, and he was not best pleased to lose to the division rival Cleveland Browns in Week 12. In a stunning snow game, Pittsburgh would need to complete a Hail Mary attempt from Russell Wilson to have any chance at salvaging a result. With 6 seconds left on the clock, Wilson threw up one of his vintage moonballs, but as it came hurtling back down to earth, Pickens was not exactly in the right place to try and catch it. In fact, Pittsburgh's number 14 had picked up contact from Browns cornerback Greg Newsome, who shepherded him out the back of the end zone. After seeing the ball hit the deck, Pickens' next course of action was to bury his opponent into the wall. Visibility wasn't exactly great through the snow, but this lucky photographer had a front row view and captured it in Ultra HD for all of us to enjoy. 8. DK Metcalf vs Chicago, Week 17. Another player you won't be surprised to see featured in this video is DK Metcalf, who's never far away from an angry point at a shoving match. In Week 17 of the 2024 season, he found himself at the heart of the action, not reacting well to the tiniest little shove from a far smaller Tyreek Stevenson at the end of a run play. When Stevenson then retaliated and got in his face, Metcalf swiftly introduced the palm of his hand to Stevenson's helmet, closely followed by a good old-fashioned finger jab to the grill. This altercation is the epitome of how the smallest of provocations can very quickly get out of hand, as more players join the fray and also find themselves on the receiving end of an angry shove from the Seahawks receiver. When replay footage shows a bonus headbutt and more pushing and shoving, it's fairly easy to understand why DK Metcalf found himself on the receiving end of 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties and a loss of 15 yards. Stevenson at least managed to see the funny side of it. 7. Steelers vs Eagles, Week 15. Up next, we have a good shoving match between the Eagles and Steelers from Week 15 of the 2024 NFL season. These top-tier NFL clashes provide some of the best one-on-one athlete matchups across all of sports. But sometimes, one guy can find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. In this case, a 190-pound Darius Slay could not believe his misfortune when he found himself in the crosshairs of a 264-pound Darnell Washington. The big Steelers tight end made sure to put the exclamation point on his block by driving Slay all the way out the back of the end zone and into the wall, beautifully captured by this fan footage shared on the Steelers Hive Facebook page. Nothing hurts your ego quite like being manhandled, and Slay clearly did not take it well, responding with a swift right hook before being held back by his teammates. Of course, all the commotion brought the rest of the cavalry in, and before you knew it, the front row of fans got a bit more than they bargained for. The result of the kerfuffle was an unsportsmanlike conduct flag on Darnell Washington and a 15-yard penalty on the Steelers. I think it's fair to say Big Play Slay got a little bit lucky on that one. 6. Chicago vs Carolina, Week 5. On the topic of players overreacting and turning nothing into something, let's turn our attention to this Week 5 clash between Chicago and Carolina. A well-blocked up Roschon Johnson rushing touchdown increased the Bears' lead to 36 points to 10, which perhaps explains why J.C. Horn's anger levels were maxing out. Already humiliated by the 26-point deficit, Horn didn't enjoy being manhandled by the perfectly good blocking efforts of guard Bill Murray, responding to a finishing shove with a punchy two-hander of his own. We all know what happens next, right? Cue the standoff and a couple of other playful shoves until one of the many 250-pound athletes on the field builds up a head of steam and sends someone flying. It's a good hit to be fair to Johnson. We see you, 52. This doesn't exactly help the matter though, leading to a few more theatrical shoves and face-offs until the refs finally get things under control. When all was said and done, Pryor of the Bears and Horn of the Panthers were ejected, with Johnson receiving a 15-yard penalty for his efforts. 5. Chargers vs. Raiders, Week 1. In a similar fashion to the Panthers-Bears brawl just a moment ago, the LA Chargers and Las Vegas Raiders also engaged in a late-game tussle, with the silver and black potentially letting off some steam. A 12-point loss to a division rival is never how you want to open the season. So, an off-season worth of NFL practice went out the window as these guys resorted to their favorite WWE moves instead. What started as a slightly handsy block by Josh Palmer on Jack Jones quickly descended into some extracurricular activities as Marcus Epps joined the party to back up his teammate. As more and more people joined in, more and more people kept finding the floor, with it unclear whether the newbies were trying to help or hinder the calming down process. In the end, it took Jim Harbaugh and all of the refs to break up the action, before finally getting people back to their sidelines. For their roles in the incident, Palmer and Jones were ejected, but it made little impact on the game, which finished 22-10 in LA's favor. What a welcome back game that was for Harbaugh. 4. Jauan Jennings blocking off the field, Week 18. As we've learned from this video, a desire to finish blocks not only makes you popular with your teammates, but is one of the most reliable ways to start a fight. One guy who knows that better than most is Jauan Jennings. He first showed off his talents by driving rookie Terrion Arnold into the stands in Week 17, before dominating in a similar fashion 1 week later against Arizona. In the season finale, Jennings had a chance to complete his first ever 1,000-yard season, but instead, he finished it on the sidelines. The first sign of trouble came on a second down run halfway through the second quarter, in which Jennings completely overpowered cornerback Starling Thomas IV with a powerful shoulder to the chest. Both players received offsetting personal fouls for their ensuing actions. Then, just one play later, Jennings was back at it again, this time taking on Sean Murphy-Bunting, who took the 49er receiver to the ground in an attempt to get revenge for his teammate. A messy aftermath meant the refs had to break the two players up before ejecting them both. This was a particularly damaging ejection for Jennings, who ended the season on 975 yards, just 25 short of his first 1,000-yard effort. 3. Nathan Shepard's dirty play. As we enter the top 3 of our 10 most heated moments from the 2024 NFL season, things start to get a bit dirtier. We begin with Nathan Shepard's dirty play against Justin Herbert in Week 8. With the score at a rather unusual 3-2 in favor of LA, Herbert dropped back to pass, just about managing to shuffle the ball off to his running back with a defender wrapped around his ankles. That defender was Nathan Shepard, who did not release the $262 million quarterback, instead holding on and rolling over Herbert's ankle to bring him down. Herbert's leg buckled in a way all too familiar for fans who have seen countless gruesome knee injuries, leading the commentator to ask, "What are we doing there?" Not impressed by the actions of the Saints defender, Chargers O-lineman Bradley Bozeman took aim at Shepard and cleared him out of the way, burying him into the turf and giving him what I can only assume were some unsavory words. Thankfully, Herbert was quick to get up, having escaped injury, but Shepard was widely criticized for what was an incredibly dirty play. Meanwhile, Bozeman was heralded as a hero for protecting his guy, receiving no criticism for the unnecessary roughness penalty he incurred. It's always good to see these guys having their teammates back. 2. Brian Cook and Trent Williams punch each other, Week 7. For our penultimate heated moment, we go to a repeat of the 2023 season Super Bowl, where it's understandable that tensions were running high. In the dying moments, with the game out of reach for San Francisco, Trent Williams found himself booted from the game, although he should feel hard done by that he was the only one. On a screenplay to Ricky Pearsall, San Francisco's number 71 found himself in space, charging into Kansas City's Brian Cook to clear a path for his wide receiver. Nobody wants to be on the receiving end of a block from one of the best and biggest left tackles in the NFL. But Cook wasn't afraid of the big man. Once the play was over, a quick jab to the helmet of a defenseless Williams was his way of having the last say, only for Big 71 to send an almighty right hook right back at him. Whilst Cook's jab on Williams made little impact, the return punch sent the far smaller defender flying, making it an easy decision for the refs to kick Williams out of the game. The decision not to send Cook with him was baffling though, with the commentator even pointing out that they always get the second guy, right? 1. Alshire's dirty hit on Trevor Lawrence, week 13. To round out this video, there is only one incident worthy of the top spot. That would of course be Azeez Al-Shire's outrageous hit on Trevor Lawrence, which knocked the Jags QB out cold and sparked a vicious brawl. Rolling out to his left, Trevor Lawrence took off into some empty space in front of him, giving himself up by sliding around the line to gain. As he slid, Al-Shire came in like a bullet and stopped him dead in his tracks. Not only did the shuddering hit bring Lawrence to an immediate stop, but it also snapped his head back into the turf, triggering the scary-looking fencing posture and sending the crowd wild with anger. Then, as Lawrence lay there motionless, chaos unfurled around him. First to the scene of the crime was tight end Evan Ingram, who was swiftly joined by a swarm of players from both teams, clearing the sidelines in easily the most heated moment of the 2024 season. Clearly not feeling too guilty, Al-Shire took the fight to the Jags players, but he would of course be ejected before receiving a 3-game suspension for the hit. Lawrence himself was concussed and sent to IR, not appearing again in the 2024 season. So that wraps up the 10 most heated moments from the 2024 NFL season. Which one stands out the most to you, and what did I miss? Let me know in the comments.